The air within the courtroom was thick and smothering, as if everyone was afraid to breathe, much less exhale. The only noise that dared challenge the silence was the sharp, metronomic tick, tick, tick of the clock high upon the wall. It was not a clock tonight. Decan. It was a countdown, a constant reminder that at any moment, a truth hidden for years was going to blow wide open. Every eye in that room focused on one man, Kody Brown. Kody sat rigidly at the defense table, his unnatural back stiff as a board, his shoulders squared like a soldier ready to go into battle. His normally proud flowing golden curls were damp with sweat, lying plastered against his forehead, as though even his hair felt the storm brewing. His jaw was clenched so hard that the muscle in his cheek twitched every second. To outsiders, Kody may have appeared a man of control, a man ready to stand his ground. But anyone who really knew him, anyone who had lived in his house, saw the cracks begin to show. Behind those narrowed eyes was a maelstrom of fear, anger, and desperation ready to engulf him. Next to him, Robyn Brown trembled, holding a crumpled tissue, as if it were the sole thing that held her together. Her mascara had started to run, blurring down her cheeks, proof of unshed tears which had fallen hours earlier, before the judge came into court. She sniffed softly, attempting to pull herself together, but each tiny sound reverberated with sharp clarity in the charged stillness. Across the table, seated on the witness stand, was Meri Brown. But this was not the Meri that people remembered attending family gatherings or early seasons of Sister Wives. This was a woman changed, toughened by years of heartbreak, driven by betrayal, and standing strong on a platform of raw, unshakable resolve. Her fingers wrapped around the edges of the wooden frame so hard that the knuckles were white, but otherwise her posture was perfect, chin held high, her eyes puffed and crimsoned from endless nights of sleeplessness and tears that fell in secret, blazed with a combination of anger and agony. And when she finally spoke, her voice was as biting as a knife cutting through the suffocating quiet. "Meri, Your Honor," she started, her voice shaking at first, but firming with every word. "I never imagined standing here today. Never. But Kody left me no option." Her words seemed to ripple in the air, striking each person differently. Some winced, others froze, but nobody dared budge. Meri going on. "I held his secrets for years. I kept my mouth shut for years. I did what a good wife is supposed to do. I suffered, I forgave, I turned a blind eye, because that's what he wanted me to do." She caught her breath and locked eyes with Kody. He didn't blink. He didn't even flinch. But his fingers gripped the edge of the table, revealing the tempest raging beneath. Meri sternly, "But not today. Not anymore. Today the truth comes out." The room exploded in a group gasp. It wasn't loud, but it was cutting, one of shock and disbelief, a collective reaction that sliced through the tension like a knife. Not even Christine and Janelle, who sat silently in the back row, could suppress their shock. Christine gasped, her hand shooting up to cover her mouth, as Janelle clutched the wooden bench in front of her, her huge eyes fixed on Meri and Kody as if she couldn't quite comprehend what she was hearing. The judge, who was a man renowned for his unflappable demeanor, shifted uncomfortably in his seat. He moved his glasses down slowly, deliberately, as if allowing the room to come to rest before speaking. "Judge, continue, Mrs. Brown." Two small words, but to Meri, they were a green light. Permission to finally tell her truth after all those years of silence. And to Kody, they were the ringing of a bell, summoning his reckoning forth. The room takes sides. Meri braced herself, her gaze passing over the courtroom. Every face had a story to tell. On the one hand, Robyn was completely devastated. Her shoulders heaved with silent sobs, her tissue torn and frayed in her shaking hands. She mouthed something to Kody. A warning maybe, or a plea. But he didn't react. He sat immobile-faced, a man looking as though he had been iced, though a slight trembling in his clenched fist gave away the truth. Behind Robyn sat a small group of supporters, friends and distant relatives who still believed in Kody's version of events. They avoided Meri's gaze, their expressions tight with unease, as if doubting everything they thought they knew. On the other side sat Christine and Janelle, who had lived through the same storm Meri had. Their faces were pale, their eyes shining with unspoken pain. Though neither spoke a word, their body language screamed their inner turmoil, a mixture of anger, sorrow, and bitter vindication. Even the jury seemed caught in the emotional crossfire. Some leaned forward, captivated by Meri's raw emotion. Others sat rigid, clearly struggling to process the messy, tangled web of a family laid bare before them. And standing above it all, like the calm center of a violent storm, was the judge. His gavel rested silently in front of him, his expression unreadable, but his eyes missed nothing. Meri's first blow. Meri took a slow, deliberate breath. Her voice, when she spoke again, was steadier, but there was an undercurrent of rage simmering just beneath the surface. Kody Brown built his life on appearances. To the world, he was a man of faith, a devoted husband, a father who would go to any length for his family. But behind closed doors, he was someone very different. A collective shiver seemed to run through the room. Meri? I remained quiet because I thought things would turn around. I thought the man I married was still somewhere within the stranger who's standing in front of me today. But rather than fighting for our family, Kody, you fought to save yourself. She shook her finger at him, her voice growing stronger. Meri, you took my place. You stepped in front of me. And when I pleaded with you, for the thing that I needed most, you turned your back on me like I wasn't even there. Robyn's crying increased, shattering the thick silence for the first time. Christine turned away, her jaw clenched, as Janelle clenched her hands together, muttering something under her breath. Kody's face continued to be an inscrutable mask, but his chest heaved and fell with great rapidity, as though he was fighting to keep a blow-up in check. Kody's silent refusal. The room caught its collective breath for a moment, anticipating that Kody would say something, but he didn't. Instead, he just sat there, stiff and immobile, his gaze fixed on Meri with anger and something else. Fear. It was slight, hardly noticeable, but Meri caught it, and it made her strong. She stood up straight and faced the judge. Her voice was gentle, but the words weighed heavily on all who were there. Meri, Your Honor, I did not come today to demolish Kody. I came because he demolished us. And now, the world needs to hear the truth about what actually occurred. The judge's eyes moved to Kody, whose fingers tapped softly against the table, the only external indication of the turmoil building inside him. The calm before the storm. The room became a strained silence. Somewhere in the background, a chair creaked as someone shifted uncomfortably. The faint buzz of the overhead lights sounded deafening in the silence. Everyone knew that the moment had come. Whatever Meri was going to say would alter the course of their lives. Kody's lips curled in, like he ached to speak, to justify himself, but he didn't. Maybe it was fear, pride, or a frenzied attempt to keep control, but he remained quiet, and that silence rang louder than a scream. Meri breathed in one last time. Her shaking hands ceased their tremble. When she spoke once more, her words rang out clear, strong and unmoving. Meri, for years, Kody has made me out to be the bitter wife, the issue in our marriage, the one who couldn't move on from the past. But the real truth, Your Honor, the real truth is a darker one. And tonight, I will demonstrate to you who Kody Brown truly is. The courtroom leaned forward together, entranced. Even the judge's eyes narrowed a fraction. His interest spiked, and with those words, the storm was underway officially. The courtroom was heavy with tension, a storm cloud about to burst. Every individual within sensed it, the type of charged, smothering tension that made breathing hard. The judge nodded slowly, solemnly indicating Meri to continue. The room fell still once more, but the rustle of restive bodies on wooden benches filled the room. Meri's lips parted, but for a brief second no sound came out. Her throat felt tight, her chest heavy, as if the weight of all the years of silence she carried was pressing down on her at once. Then she exhaled, steadied herself, and began to speak. The dream that shattered Meri softly at first. Your Honor, from the outside, Our family looked perfect. They watched us on the news and believed we were a happy, strong, intact family. But behind closed doors, there were cracks. Cracks I attempted to disguise with hope and forgiveness. She spoke with a slight quiver in her voice, but she refused to let the emotion get the better of her. Meri, all I ever wanted was to feel loved and valued. And above all, I wanted a son. Our son. A child that would bring happiness and mend the cracks in our family. Christine's eyes welled up with tears at those words. She could comprehend Meri's yearning. Janelle leaned over and softly squeezed Christine's hand, wordlessly urging her to hold on. Meri, she continues. I believed that if Kody and I might have that joy, if we might bring a child into the world together, perhaps things might begin to improve. She gazed at Kody, her eyes shining with a blend of hurt and obstinacy. Meri, but every time I asked, every time I reached out, he turned me away. He always had an excuse. He was too busy, he was tired, or he was with someone else. Her voice shattered on the final words. A sudden collective gasp came from the crowd. Even Robyn, who was beside Kody, hid her face in her hands and muffled a sob. Kody did not flinch though, his face impassive, but his knotted fists on the table told the story of the tempest raging within him. The night that changed everything. Meri covered her eyes for an instant, summoning strength before unveiling the recollection that had haunted her for years. When she opened them again, her stare was icy and unwavering. Meri, that night, the night everything fell apart, is burned into my mind forever. The courtroom seemed to collectively hold its breath. Even the judge leaned forward slightly, sensing the weight of what was about to be revealed. Meri's voice dropped, trembling but strong enough to carry across the room. Meri, I called Kody that night. I was heartbroken and I was desperate. I said to him, Kody, please. I need you, I can't do this myself. I need you to come back home. And he said he would. He promised me. Her lips quivered as tears fell freely down her face. Meri, so I waited. I sat there alone, holding on to hope, staring at the door, thinking he'd walk in at any moment. She paused, her shoulders shaking. Janelle dabbed at her eyes with a tissue, visibly moved. Even some jurors were wiping tears discreetly. Meri's voice hardened, slicing through the room like a blade. Meri, but he never came. The silence that followed was deafening. The accusation. Meri's fingers wrapped around the wooden railing so hard her knuckles whitened. Her words burst out like a scream from the depths of her very soul. Meri left me when I most needed him. Robyn's wails grew louder. Christine shook her whole body and covered her mouth. The crowd erupted into frenzied murmurs before the judge slammed his gavel down hard. Judge, order in the court. Silence will be heard. The commotion died down, but the tension was still palpable. Meri faced Kody again, her voice trembling in anger. Meri, do you have any idea what that did to me, Kody? I was shattered alone. That night, my dream of having a son passed on, not because of destiny, but because of your decisions. Her words struck like a sledgehammer, and Kody had finally reacted. His head jerked up, his chest pumping as he glared at her. He spoke for the first time since the trial started. Kody, coldly, don't twist this, Meri. You know why I couldn't be here. I did what I had to do for this family. Meri's jaw fell, her voice rising in anger. Meri, for this family. Don't you dare use that excuse. You weren't defending this family. You were defending yourself. Kody's face turned red, his nostrils flaring as he banged his fist on the table. Kody yelling, you think you get it, but you don't. You never saw it all. Meri, you turned against me, way before that night ever occurred. Robyn reached out, putting a shaking hand on Kody's arm, whispering, please, Kody, don't, but he violently jerked away, his fury boiling over. The judge's gavel crashed on the wood. Judge, Mr. Brown, get a hold of yourself or I will have you removed. There was another stillness in the room, but this one was a fear-filled stillness, like before a building falls. The bombshell revelation. Meri gasped for breath, but composed herself. Her words came next, soft but much more deadly. Meri, you want to discuss loyalty, Kody. Fine, let's discuss where you actually were that evening. Kody stiffened. Even Robyn ceased crying, her head jerking back in fear. Christine and Janelle shared a look, their bodies rigid. Meri gesturing at Kody. Tell them the truth, Kody. Tell everyone present in this courtroom why you wouldn't come home to me that evening. Kody's lips parted, then shut once more. His Adam's apple bobbed while he swallowed hard, visibly shaken. The whole courtroom seemed to lean forward collectively, waiting for his reply. But Kody remained silent. Meri's lips curled into a bitter, pained smile. Meri, you won't say it. Okay, I will. She raised her voice, seducing the walls of the courtroom. Meri, while I was all alone, crying and pleading with my husband, Kody was with her. She gestured her arm toward Robyn. The audience gasped so loudly that it seemed like the floor was going to crack under their feet. Robyn covered her face in her hands and cried out, "No, Meri, don't do this." But it was too late. The truth had come out. The aftermath of truth. The courtroom erupted into uproar. People shouted, some in rage, others in shock. Christine was crying openly now, and Janelle sat rigidly, hands locked together, as if praying for this dream to vanish. The judge's gavel crashed. Judge, order. Order in this court. Meri stood erect, her chest laboring, her face streamed with tears. But her voice was firm and crisp. Meri, that night wasn't about betrayal. It was about choices. Choices that ruined my marriage, ruined my trust in him, and ruined our family. She turned to Kody, eyes blazing with righteous indignation. Meri, I lost everything that night, because you couldn't be where you should have been. Kody's lips shook, but his words were stalled. The once proud patriarch of a sprawling clan now resembled a man cornered, laid bare, and beaten. And just like that, the tide of the trial began to turn. The courtroom was still trembling from Meri's accusation. Her words hung in the air like smoke after a fire, choking, suffocating, impossible to ignore. Robyn sat slumped in her chair, sobbing into her shredded tissue, her shoulders shaking violently. Christine stared straight ahead, her face pale, lips pressed tightly together to keep from crying out. Janelle's fingers were crossed so tightly that her knuckles were white. Kody Brown, on the other hand, sat stiff as a statue. His chest heaved in and out, his jaw clenched so tight the muscles on his face spasmed wildly. For an eternity of a moment, he didn't say anything. The quiet was agonizing. Even the judge leaned forward, furrowed eyebrows, observing the defendant like a hawk. Finally the judge uttered a word, his voice cutting and authoritative. Judge, Mr. Brown, this is your chance to answer. Did you or did you not leave your wife that evening? Kody's lips quivered. He tried to open his mouth, but nothing emerged at first. It was like his throat had shut down, damming up words he'd spent decades trying to hide. Then, in a hoarse whisper, he finally spoke. Kody, hoarse whisper. I didn't go to Meri, because I was with someone else that night. The words cut through the room, like a knife. A unified gasp from the audience, followed by hysterical muttering. The sound of dozens of stunned voices surged like a wave pummeling against the walls. Robyn released a huge, shattered sob, and buried her face in both hands. Christine's mouth dropped open in unadulterated disbelief. Janelle shook her head wildly. Mumbling, Janelle, no, no, this can't be true. The judge slammed his gavel, his voice thudding. Judge, order, order in this court. But the uproar only subsided somewhat. Even when the judge spoke, the room hummed with tension, all of them leaning forward, hungry for more. The name everyone feared, Meri, did not blink. She simply glared at Kody, eyes icy and impenetrable. Meri Isili, tell them who it was. Kody, tell them who was more important to you than me, more important than our family. Kody went white, his eyes jumping between Meri, the judge, and the gaggle of people behind him. His lips opened, but he didn't speak. Words stuck in his throat. Meri, voice on the rise. Tell them. Her voice was like a shot, and Robyn winced and Christine gasped. Lastly, Kody's shoulders slumped, and his eyes fell to the ground. His voice was only a whisper, but everybody heard him. Kody. It was Robyn. The courtroom erupted into pandemonium. Gasps, screams and cries of shock filled the room. Robyn screamed. Robyn, no. Kody. Don't say that. Please. Don't. She attempted to grab his arm, but he pulled away, standing so quickly that his chair scraped across the floor. Christine put both hands over her mouth, her body shaking. Janelle's eyes welled up with tears, as she whispered, "Janelle, I knew it. Deep down, I always knew." The judge's warning. The judge's gavel pounded wildly on the bench. "Judge. Order. Order. Or I will clear this courtroom." Slowly the noise died down to a tense hush, but the air still crackled with shock and betrayal. The judge fixed his stern gaze on Kody. "Judge. Mr. Brown, you've admitted to being with another woman that night. This court demands to know why. Explain yourself. Now." Kody's face twisted with rage and desperation. He ran a trembling hand through his sweat-soaked curls, his breathing ragged. For an instant it appeared that he would not answer. Then taking a great tremulous breath, he let out the secret he'd been keeping. Kody's desperate defense. Kody yelling, "You all think you know me, but you don't. You think of me as a monster. A self-centered man who left his family behind. But not one of you knows the sacrifices I've made to maintain this family." He shook a shaking finger at Meri, his voice breaking. "Kody, you call it betrayal. I call it survival." The audience murmured in bewilderment. Meri narrowed her eyes, speaking in a low, menacing tone. "Meri, survival. Is that what you call fleeing into Robyn's arms, when I was here all alone, broken and shattered?" Kody slammed his fist on the table, causing Robyn to shriek. Kody shouting, "I went to Robyn because she knew the truth. She was the only one who knew what was at risk that night." The judge stood up, overpowering the commotion. "Judge. And what truth is that, Mr. Brown?" Kody stiffened. His eyes were searching wildly, as if seeking an exit. A door, a window, something. But there wasn't any. Each face in the room was turned towards him, asking for explanations. Slowly he lowered his voice to a cold whisper. "Kody, there was an accident." The accident. A ripple of confusion swept through the courtroom. Christine furrowed her brow. Janelle knit her brow in thought. Meri moved forward, her heart racing. "Meri, what accident?" "Kody, stop talking in riddles and tell me." Kody's breathing became unsteady. He clutched the table edge so tightly his knuckles whitened. "Kody, struggling. That night, one of us was in harm's way. There was a crash. A terrible crash. And if I hadn't been there, it could have been worse." The room broke into whispers. Who could he possibly mean? Whose life had hung in the balance? Meri enraged. "Don't even try to spin this. Kody, you weren't saving anyone. You were hiding." Kody spun his head around, his eyes crazy. "Kody, you think I was hiding? I was protecting you." The words hung there, leaving everyone speechless. Even Robyn ceased weeping, her big tearful eyes staring at Kody in horror. The unthinkable truth. The judge slanted forward, his voice grimly serious. "Judge. Mr. Brown. The court requires clarity. Who was in this accident? And why are you saying you were there to guard Mrs. Brown?" Kody's face twisted, tears pricked at his eyes. And for a moment he seemed like a man shattered. At last, he forced the words all of them feared. "Kody. It was Garrison." A gasp ran through the room. Christine screamed. "Christine, no. No, no, no." She fell into Janelle's arms, crying hysterically. Janelle's body trembled as she embraced her, her own tears running down her cheeks. Janelle sobbing. "My boy. Oh God, my boy." Meri stumbled backward, grabbing at her chest, as if she had been pierced. Her voice was reduced to a croaking whisper. "Meri, you knew. You were there. And you didn't tell us?" Kody's tears flowed freely now, his voice cracking. "Kody. I was trying to repair it. Meri, I thought if I did it gently, I could keep the family safe. Keep all of you safe. But I didn't. I let everyone down." The courtroom explodes. The room broke into pandemonium once again. Christine was crying hysterically, refusing to be comforted. Janelle shook so hard she was barely able to stand. Even Robyn, who was hugging Kody seconds before, slipped away from him, as if he were toxic. Meri's eyes burned with anger and sorrow. She moved closer, her voice crying out above the din. "Meri, no. Kody, you didn't just disappoint us. You opted to lie.
You left me shattered and alone, while you hid the reality about our son's death. Her last words struck like a sledgehammer. The judge's gavel came down time and again, but even he was unable to bring complete order. The breaking point, Kody dropped to his knees. Holding his head, he rocked back and forth, weeping, his voice torn and jagged. Kody, I didn't mean for it to happen. I thought I was doing the right thing. Please. You have to believe me. But no one got up to console him. Not Robyn, not Christine, not even Janelle. The one-time dominant patriarch now resembled nothing more than a shattered man. Amid the ruins of his own deceit, Meri towered over him, crying hard. Meri, we don't believe you anymore, Kody. Not after this. The final snap of the judge's gavel thundered through the room like a shot. Judge, this court will recess while we deliberate. Bailiff, take Mr. Brown into custody. As Kody was escorted away in handcuffs, the whole courtroom was left in shocked silence, gasping at the revelation they had just heard. The truth was out, and things could never again be quite the same. The solid wood doors of the courtroom crashed shut with a thunderous boom, confining Kody Brown to a holding cell. But the mayhem beyond those doors was only just starting. The once close-knit Brown family now resembled a house of cards, kicked onto the ground. Meri, Christine, Janelle, and Robyn stood in the hallway, facing a flurry of reporters, family acquaintances, and shocked bystanders. Each of the women broken in some manner. Cameras flashed as quickly as lightning, as reporters yelled over the top of each other. Reporter 1. Meri, how does it feel to finally hear Kody admit the truth? Reporter 2. Christine, was Garrison's death covered up? Reporter 3. Robyn, did you participate in concealing this accident? Their questions cut like knives, slicing through a moment already breaking. Bailiffs and security were trying to shove them back, but the commotion was thunderous. Christine's anger turns to rage. Christine couldn't bear it. Her sobs were raw and raspy, her entire body shaking as Janelle clung to her. Christine screaming. He knew. The whole time, he knew what happened to my boy and said nothing. Her voice broke on the final word, a sound so raw and shattered that even the reporters were silent for a moment. She swung to face Meri, eyes wild and red with anger. Christine, you were there, Meri. You've been battling him in court, but you never told me you suspected this. Meri's face collapsed. She extended a hand, but Christine pushed it away. Meri's strangled whisper. Christine, I didn't know for certain. I only knew that Kody wasn't being entirely honest. I never imagined. Not this. Christine gave a raspy scream and banged her fists against the chilly marble wall. Christine, sobbing. My baby. My darling boy. And he just sat there deceiving us. Deceiving me. Janelle's tears ran soundlessly down her face. But her sorrow was quieter, weightier. She collapsed onto a bench, whispering repeatedly like a mantra. Janelle. My Garrison. My sweet Garrison. Robyn's desperate plea. In the hall outside, Robyn staggered forward, makeup smudged with tears. She clutched Christine's arm, holding on like a drowning woman to a lifeline. Robyn desperate. Christine, please. You have to believe me. I didn't know. Kody never said what actually happened. I thought he was just angry that night. Christine yanked her arm free, her expression a picture of pure rage. Christine spitting. Don't even touch me, Robyn. You were always his favorite. You were with him the night my son died. You think I'll ever think that you didn't know? Robyn staggered back, as if she had been physically hit by Christine's words. She looked over at Meri and Janelle, shaking. Robyn, please, please. You have to listen to me. I loved Garrison like he was my own son. I would never. Meri interrupted her, her tone icy. Meri, you might not have killed him, Robyn, but you assisted Kody in covering it up. And that makes you complicit too. Robyn's knees gave out, and she fell onto the ground, weeping hysterically. The judge returns abruptly. The enormous courtroom doors groaned open. A bailiff materialized, his face grim and inscrutable. Bailiff. The judge will reconvene in 5 minutes. Everyone, be ready to go back into the courtroom. The words created a shiver of terror through the group. 5 minutes to stand before the man who had destroyed them. 5 minutes before Kody would go on trial again. This time with the full force of his confession weighing upon him. Christine mopped her tears on trembling hands and stood firm, her sorrow becoming rage. Christine coldly. I want to see him. I want him to look me in the eye when the verdict is read. Janelle struggled slowly to her feet beside her, her face white and determined. Janelle, we'll face him together. For Garrison. Meri nodded silently, but her heart pounded. She wasn't just here for justice. She was here to make sure Kody never had the chance to hurt anyone else again. Kody's cell. Meanwhile, deep beneath the courthouse, Kody sat alone in a cold, dimly lit holding cell. His once immaculate suit was wrinkled, his golden curls hanging limp with sweat. His hands shook as he relived the moment of his confession again and again in his head. He had been the rock-solid leader, the patriarch who held every story in his grasp. Now he was a trapped beast, awaiting sentence. The door swung open, and to his amazement, Robyn entered. Her cheeks were wet with tears, but her eyes flashed with fury. Robyn enraged whisper. How could you, Kody? You've ruined everything. Our family, our kids, our lives. All gone due to your lies. Kody reached for her, standing up. Kody, Robyn. Please. I did it for us. I was protecting you. Protecting everyone. Robyn pushed his hand away, her chest rising and falling. Robyn. No.
You weren't protecting anyone. You were protecting yourself. For the first time, Kody was actually defeated. His shoulders dropped as he spoke softly. Kody, I thought I could repair it. I thought if nobody knew the truth, we could return to the way it used to be. Robyn's face contorted in revulsion. Robyn, we cannot turn back. She spun and stormed out, leaving Kody standing there, a king without a kingdom, a father without children. Returned to the courtroom, 5 minutes passed, and everyone was seated once more. The air was so charged, it seemed the walls were themselves holding their breath. The judge arrived, his face set. He sat down and gazed out over the bereaved family sitting before him. Judge, this court has considered the evidence and testimony offered. Given Miss Brown's confession, we are ready to continue. Meri, Christine, Janelle, and Robyn were seated stiffly in a row, their pain and resolve carved on their faces. Kody was escorted in, wrists handcuffed behind him. The courtroom went silent when he sat at the defense table, head lowered. The judge pushed his glasses up the bridge of his nose, ready to utter the words that would seal Kody's destiny. But just as he was about to start, Christine stood suddenly, her voice echoing like a battle cry. Christine, Your Honor, before you render your verdict, I have something to say. The whole courtroom swung round to face her, shocked. The judge arched an eyebrow, but nodded gradually. Judge, go ahead, Mrs. Brown. Christine's voice trembled, yet her words were cutting as razors. Christine, my son Garrison is entitled to justice. And the truth is, Kody didn't just lie. He stole him from us. He chose his pride over his own child's life. And now he must face the consequences. Her words hung in the air like a death sentence. The courtroom was so silent, it felt like the world had stopped spinning. Every person in the room seemed frozen in place, their breath caught in their throats. The only noise was the gentle rhythmic tick of the ancient clock on the wall, ticking away toward the moment that would alter history. Kody Brown slouched in the defense table, his head low in deference. His golden curls, once proud badges of his charisma and dominance, now dangled limp and sweaty. His complexion was waxen, ghostly pale. He resembled a man preparing to die. Meri, Janelle, Robyn, and Christine sat together on the other side of the room, not together, but held together by the horror that had been inflicted on them. Christine's hand held Janelle's, both of them shaking, the pain still fresh and tangible. Meri was stiff and unyielding, her face a mask of determination. Robyn was in ruins, her body shaking as she cried silently, caught between loyalty and disgust. The judge pushed his glasses up the bridge of his nose and cleared his throat. His voice was smooth, but beneath it was a burden so heavy it weighed down the whole courtroom. Judge, having read through all evidence, testimony, and the confession of Mr. Brown, this court is prepared to hand down its verdict. There was a ripple of tension in the crowd. Cameras snapped wildly. Everyone strained forward, trying to hear every word. The verdict is read. The judge grasped the papers on the desk before him and read slowly, methodically. Judge, Kody Brown, this court finds you guilty of obstruction of justice, perjury, and willful concealment of evidence in the death of Garrison Brown. The words strike like a thunderclap. Christine gasped loudly, falling into Janelle's arms as sobs shook her body. Janelle sobbed outright, rocking back and forth with Christine clutched in her arms like a shield. Meri closed her eyes, one tear tracking slowly down her cheek. Not relief, but grief over everything they'd lost. Robyn emitted a shrill, fragmented scream, covering her face as her body shook uncontrollably. Robyn screaming, "No, no, this can't be happening." Kody jerked at the sound of her voice, his own too fast and labored. Judge going on, "Mr. Brown, you will be remanded into custody immediately. Sentencing will occur in 30 days. The judge's gavel crashed down with a sharp, definitive bang. Judge, court is adjourned. The sound reverberated through the room like the last toll of a bell. It was over, or so everyone believed. Kody's desperate outburst. As bailiffs stepped forward to take Kody away, he jumped abruptly to his feet, his expression distorted in fury and despair. Kody shouting, "No, you don't understand. You think you know the truth, but you don't. This whole family is founded on lies." Bailiffs struggled to hold him back, but Kody wrestled furiously, shouting over the din. "Kody, you think Garrison's death was an accident? You think I'm the bad guy here? You don't even know what actually happened." Christine's head jerked upward, her tear-stained face contorted with shock and anger. Christine shouting, "Stop lying, Kody. Haven't you done enough yet?" Kody gazed at her, his own eyes blazing with an awful intensity. Kody snarling, "Ask yourself, Christine, who stood to gain the most from keeping the truth hidden." The words hung in the air like a chill. Gasps spread through the crowd. For the briefest moment, everyone appeared stuck in confusion and terror. The final twist, Christine staggered back, face white, lips shaking. Meri wheeled to face her, a realization springing into her eyes. Meri whispering, "Christine, what is he saying?" Christine's breathing became choppy, her whole body trembling. "Christine, he's lying. He's trying to cover himself." But her voice broke, and in that instant, everyone saw it, the flash of guilt in her eyes. Janelle gasped, her head jerking away from Christine, as if she'd been burned. Janelle distraught whisper, "Christine, no, please tell me you didn't." Christine's silence was more deafening than any denial. The whole courtroom erupted into pandemonium once more. Reporters yelled out questions, cameras blazed, and people shouted above one another in shock. Robyn grasped her chest, crying hysterically. "Robyn, oh my God. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't an accident at all." Christine's collapse. Christine fell to the ground on her knees, her sobs bursting forth as she grasped her head in her hands. Christine screaming, "I didn't mean for it to happen. I just wanted to protect him, to protect all of us." She addressed Janelle, her face contorted in pain. "Christine, I thought if I could just keep Kody from finding out, we could still be a family. I never wanted to hurt anyone." Janelle moved back, her head shaking in shock. Janelle tearfully, "You let me think for months. It was an accident. You let me mourn alone, while you kept the truth secret." Christine grasped at her in desperation, but Janelle pushed her away, unwilling to touch her. The bailiffs looked at each other in confusion, not knowing what to do as the family collapsed around them. The judge's last word. The judge pounded his gavel over and over, his voice slicing through the yelling like a knife. "Judge, enough. This court will be brought into order at once." The yelling ceased, but the energy was still charged, like a storm waiting to burst. "Judge, given this new discovery, Christine Brown will be arrested for interrogation. The investigation into the death of Garrison Brown is only just beginning." Christine emitted a tragic scream as two bailiffs hoisted her upright. Her knees gave way under her, but they pulled her on, her screams ringing out of the courtroom like a specter's dirge. The family shattered as Christine was escorted away. Janelle shook with uncontrollable spasms, collapsing into a chair. Robyn rocked on the floor, back and forth, whimpering. "Robyn, it's over. It's all over." Meri stood in stunned silence, her head spinning. She had battled so hard to bring Kody's deception to light, only to learn that the evil ran much deeper than she could have ever thought. And Kody? He saw it all with hard, unemotional eyes. As the bailiffs held him in their grasp again, a bitter smile crept over his face despite it all. Kody low, menacing whisper. "I told you, this family was doomed from the beginning." The closing image. The final shot was seared into everyone's memory. Kody and Christine being dragged off in opposite directions, both handcuffed. Janelle crying hysterically. Robyn devastated and speechless. And Meri by herself, the sole survivor of a family ravaged by lies, deceit and death. As the courtroom cleared, the camera swept up to the old clock on the wall, still ticking steadily, seeming to taunt the turmoil below. Tick, tock, tick, tock. The screen went black.